Start. Okay. So Monday, exam. What? No, I'm already messed up with having been sick on Wednesday and.
I get extra credits and it's my birthday.
What?
It's my birthday. You're right here.
All the random stuff that gets recorded on these reviews is great. Oh my goodness. All right. So chapters 5 and 6, the chapters on operant and the discrimination, generalization, and concept formation chapter. All right. So first one, give an example. Identify the discriminative stimulus, response, and or outcome. I'll give you a hint. This has something to do with Thorndike's cats. Let's see, number 2, operant versus classical conditioning. This has something to do with the consequences.
I don't know what that means.
What do you mean you don't know what that means?
The response has to be completed or not completed.
The distinction between operant and classical deals with consequences. In one case, they're unavoidable. In the other, you have to make the response.
In order to get the outcome.
Yep. Wow, that just pretty much. Anyway.
So
What's that? It's more like both. Just make sure that you know which one goes with which. Yes. Let's see. 3. Free operant paradigm. This is basically going to ask which of the examples illustrates that particular paradigm.
Wait, how many paradigms are there now? 3?
Well, there's the discrete trial one as well that we talked about. At least those are the ones that you need to be concerned with. So, let's see. Conditioning chambers. Well, I think we really only talked about one conditioning chamber in these chapters. And it's related somehow to that free operant paradigm. Oh, it's named after somebody too, so.
Skinner box?
Like the Skinner box? Oh, I need more drugs. All right. Let's see. Discriminative stimulus, response versus outcome. It's a definition question, and it's going to ask about one of those 3. Number 6, using shaping. Now this one is going to give you a situation where they want a behavior shaped and wants to know how it would happen. Let's see, primary versus secondary reinforcers. This is one of those where it's going to ask you for one or the other and give you a list of options, and you have to pick out which one's correct. Let's see, number 8, negative contrast involves. This is kind of an applied question in terms of what would it look like, say, in a example. See, number 9, reinforcement versus punishment. Well, make sure you know what they do to behavior. Number 10, using punishment to change behavior. Well, this one is actually kind of getting at some of the problems. Number 11, effects of delaying reinforcement. When would you get the best learning? How much of a delay? Let's see, 12, negative versus positive and reinforcement versus punishment. This is one of my twofers kinds of questions. And it's going to give you a combination of those terms and ask you to fill in the blanks about things like the outcome and what happens with the behavior.
Was it fill in the blanks with the outcome
and what it does to the behavior? Because remember, positive versus negative has to do with adding versus taking away, and punishment versus reinforcement. Reinforcement increases behavior, punishment decreases it.
This isn't like an applied question to the reinforcement versus punishment question.
It's just going to give you, the two terms, and you have to interpret them correctly. Let's see. 13. Characteristics of different reinforcement schedules. This has to do with like the shapes of the responding. And in particular has something to do with post-reinforcement pause. Let's see, 14, identifying reinforcement schedule used. This is going to be, like the little exercises we did in class that were on the slides that went through and gave you a little scenario and asked about what the reinforcement schedule was. It's going to be one like that. Let's see, 15, what is the matching law of choice behavior? Make sure you know what that is.
So is that just like a definition question
then? Let's see, 16, as delay increases, what happens to subjective value? There's actually a term for this. So 17, principle of altruism. This has to do with doing something with the expectation at some point someone will do something for you. Okay, brain area is important for operant conditioning, and there's 2 of those in a row. Well, one of them has to do with the brain area and the association that's formed. And the other one has to do with what the neurons are coding. Number 20, hedonic versus motivational value. This is another one of those twofers. So make sure you know what hedonic value is, what motivational value is. Let's see, 21, relationship between dopamine and reinforcement. What's it released in response to? '22, the incentive salience hypothesis. Know what that says? '23, roles of dopamine and opioids. And you'll need to know both of them for this question. And it has something to do with liking and wanting.
Did you say liking?
It has something to do with liking and wanting. '24, what we know about long-term addictions. This one has to do with the high that's experienced. Let's see, 25, use of blocking opioid receptors. Well, what could that be useful for? If you think about the theme of the previous question. Okay, 26 and 27, generalization, discrimination, and concept formation. One of them has examples. The other one is a definition.
Definition of all of them, or just like
One of them.
And then say for the first one, it just has an example.
Yeah, it just has example instead.
Okay.
You just have to figure out which one it is. 28 and 29, interpret the shape of a generalization gradient. Well, this first one's going to describe the shape of what the generalization gradient looks like. And it's going to ask you to interpret what's happened with regard to generalization if that curve looks the way that it's described. And 29. This is one of those ones that's got it's a twofer. How am I going to describe this? has to do with expectations.
What was that for?
For 29. Oh, I don't want to do that again. Let's see. 30, discrete component versus distributed model representations. Know how they relate to generalization? Oh boy. Apparently I got on a roll here. Let's see, 31. It's the same topic. Oh, this one's going to give you one of the models, and it's going to give you a training scenario and ask you what will happen in terms of responding.
Did you say training scenario or train scenario?
Training.
What does it ask you? I'm sorry. What will happen in terms of
responding? Yeah. Let's see, 32. 32 is more of a definitional kind of question. And 33, let's see. Oh, this one asks how they differ. Let's see, 34, stimulus control involves. That one's a definition. 35, difference in the shape of generalization gradients. I know the difference between what it looks like when there's discrimination training versus no discrimination training. Let's see. 36, trade-offs with errorless discrimination learning. That's another twofer. I know what it produces.
You know what it produces?
Yep. Let's see, 37, 38. Distinguish between sensory preconditioning, negative patterning, discrimination training, and acquired equivalence. So the first one, it's going to describe one of these types of learning paradigms, and will ask you how the testing phase would go, what you should see.
Is that just for 37?
That's 37. And 38 is actually kind of in that same vein. It's going to describe to you conditioning with one of these types of paradigms and wants to know, this one has to do with what you are rewarding with during the training.
what you are rewarding?
Yeah.
What type of behavior?
What stimulus they respond to. $39, representation models and negative patterning. Which one of those representation models has a problem with explaining that?
With explaining negative patterning.
Mm-hmm. I think there was a slide on that. 40, learning and generalization related to training and initial knowledge and skill. That's a twofer. And it has something to do with how much variability you introduce and how much knowledge you have.
And how much what?
How much knowledge you have about it, or knowledge or skill. Let's see. 41, concepts versus categories. Make sure you know the definitions of both. $42, different types of logical inference. What is it when we try to come up with like a general rule from some specific observations? $43, distinguish between stereotypes, racism, confirmation bias, and discrimination. This is going to describe a situation, an example of a situation, and wants you to identify what it is.
In like a laboratory setting or just like a worldly like?
It's going to give you a real world example of this is what's going on. What does this show you, illustrate? Let's see, 44, properties of primary sensory cortices. Well, this one is more or less asking about which one is not characteristic of these types of cortices. Let's see, 45, representations and explaining receptive fields. Which type of representation works well for A1 neurons?
What?
A1 neurons, so primary auditory. $46, role of nucleus bacillus. Well, that's about as straightforward as it gets. What is it? What's to do? 47, neurotransmitter function and role in neural plasticity. Well, this has something to do with promoting neuroplasticity in the brain. Let's see, 48, hippocampal lesions and sensory preconditioning. This is one of those with 2 blanks in it. Well, you need to know something about what is going on with the CR and how it relates to exposure condition. Let's see, 49, schizophrenia and the hippocampus. Know what the relationship is of the size of the structure? Of the structure, the hippocampus. And then 50, schizophrenia and making comparisons. This one's going to give you an actual example that is given to somebody, a patient with schizophrenia, and wants to know what would be the most difficult aspect of it.
Most difficult aspect
Of this scenario that they're giving the patient. All right.
A lot shorter than like most tests. I feel like most of our tests are like 65 questions.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I'm like not complaining about it. Can you go over number 3 again?
Number 3.
I have down discrete trial and 3 others. Is that right?
That was the free operant paradigm question.
Yeah.
That one asks, gives you a bunch of different options and wants to know which one of them illustrates a free operant paradigm. And of course, the written ones, role of positive and negative reinforcement in drug addiction. I think that one should be fairly straightforward in terms of what's going on with those 2 different types of reinforcement. And then, why is a distributed representation superior to a discrete component representation when accounting for generalization? So if you want to draw pictures and stuff, that would probably be helpful in explaining what the difference is in terms of the models. Because one of them does a very, very poor job. One of them does a halfway decent job. So I kind of want to know, what is it about the models that allows them to have these different outcomes? And like I said, if you want to draw like little pictures with the nodes and stuff, and kind of like they are in the textbook, that might be a good way to illustrate it and explain your answer. Okay, any other questions?
Thank you. I know you're like
Yeah.
right now. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how I'm gonna get through this afternoon.